play, and I want to be entertained in the finals. But I don't, I wouldn't have shed any tears like I did for the Lakers if the Celtics would have lost tonight. But it's still entertaining nonetheless, right? You think the Celtics have it, and you're like, okay, they got it in the bag. And then the Heat come storming back with 3-point shots and foul shots and layups and reverse layups. And then you think the Heat have it with Jimmy Butler. I mean, Cooley steps to the line and swishes three. I thought for sure he was going to trick at least one of those. But he swishes, I mean, all net on all three of them, which I didn't expect. And then you think, okay, I mean, the game is over. I mean, maybe they get a miracle shot. 3 seconds is a lot of time for a scorer like Tatum or Jaylen Brown to get a good look, but usually that doesn't work out. Smart gets the shot. It rims in and out. It looks good. It's online. I'm thinking it's money. And then out of nowhere, Derrick White tips it in. And like I said, you just go up and down, up and down, up and down. And for my money, especially when you get into the playoffs and there's really something to lose, there's something on the line, you can't beat it. So I think the NBA is the best league. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys some of my analysis on the game. I'm just gonna do Celtics Heat. I'll talk Lakers and Denver another day. I know I owe you guys my 2 subscribers. I owe my 2 subscribers my feedback on the end of the Denver Lakers series. But we'll just talk Celtics Heat. So a really good game. Really good game. I've said this before. The Celtics are the way better team. So in as much as, yes, the Heat were up 3-0, yes, you usually don't have a team come back from down 0-3 to win a series. It's not like the Heat are losing to a lesser team. They're losing to the better team with more studs. And to be quite frankly, I thought Boston could have won one of those in Boston. And if they had won one like they should have, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But you know what they say about ifs. Anyways, still the fact remains that Boston is the better team by far. That was proven through the regular season. Miami Heat are scrappy. I'm joking, and I don't mean to disparage anyone, but this isn't a Disney movie, right? There's a reason that Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, and who's the fourth one? Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, and Duncan Robinson. There's a reason those 4 guys weren't drafted is because they weren't really that good. And of course, if any of them pulled up to the Y and played pickup, they would cook anybody out there on the floor. That goes without saying. But as far as NBA guards go, none of them are really that special. And so you're only going to get away with that for so long, right? Spoelstra's a more experienced coach than Joe Mazzulla. He's a better coach for sure due to that experience, but it's not this, leaps and bounds that his coaching can make up for, his inferior studs, right? At some point, when Brown and Tatum and Bob Williams and Horford and Marcus Smart decided they wanted to get going, then it was always going to be a problem, right? And this is the position the Heat are in, right? Charles Barkley said it best tonight. He said, the Heat haven't won as much as the Celtics have lost these games, right? If that makes sense. He said it a little differently, but essentially he's saying the same thing I am, right? That it's really not the Heat are out there dominating, more so that the Celtics are just giving away games. I mean, they tricked away 2 games at home. And then when they really needed to knuckle down in Game 3 and get one, they gave that away. And then finally they decided to get serious in Game 4, and we've now seen what happens. So I'm not as surprised by this 0-3 to 3-3 turnaround because the Celtics are the better team. And I'll say it again. This isn't a Disney movie, right? When Jalen, Marcus, and Jason Tatum decided to get going, it was always going to be very difficult for Jimmy and Kyle and some of the other experienced players. It was going to be monumental for Gabe and for Duncan and for Caleb and for Max Strus to try to compete with those guys because they're just not in the they're not in the same league. So my take for Game 7, I think that the Celtics get it. I know there's a lot of can they? Are they satisfied? I don't think so. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are on one. I think they had a taste of it last year. I think they know they were really supposed to win it last year. And, I think they take care of business at home. Jaylen Brown has got to be better offensively throughout the game. He was really good to start. He was good in spots, but I'd like to see him put together. To be honest, I'd like to see him do what Jason Tatum has been doing. I'd like to see him win a game, 13 for 26, 3 for 6 from 3, 8 for 8 from the line or something like that for 40 points. I'd like to see that from him, particularly as a second team All-NBA player, which he lobbied for, and I think he deserves. He's one of my favorite players. I've said that before, but I haven't seen that second team All-NBA performance that I want to see in a player of that caliber in the finals, and I think he needs to give us that in Game 7. He played really well tonight, definitely better than he's been playing all series. His shot has been short. That's things that when your shot is short, that's something you can fix pretty easily, right? And so I think he's got to get going in Game 7. He's got to be a lot better. Game 7 to me is all about the stars. So Jason, Jaylen, Jimmy, and Bam. I'm not a huge Bam fan. I love Bam's hustle. I love his heart. I love what he stands for. I don't think Bam is special. I love Jimmy's heart. I think Jimmy is a fantastic dude. I don't know that Jimmy's offensively gifted like Jason Tatum is, or Kevin Durant, or even LeBron James or Kobe. I don't think he's like offensively gifted. And I think that might be a problem for him in Game 7 where everything is going to be ratcheted up. So we'll see. Everybody keeps saying that, Bam and Jimmy, they were 5 for 28 or 5 for 29 or whatever, as if Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and really Bob Williams 3, Robert Williams the third, I call him Bob Williams 3, he's been the main reason that Jimmy and Bam don't want to go to the basket. First of all, Bam is only 6'8", 6'9". Bob Williams 3 is 6'10", 6'9", 6'10". He's long as heck, and he's springy. So he's long. He's got length, and Bob Williams 3 is lengthy, long, and he's got springs. And so Bam has had his shot blocked enough. Jimmy's had his shot. Jimmy was getting his 3-point shots blocked, and Bob Williams was sagging off of him and then still able to get on top of Jimmy's 3-point shots back in Boston. So that's in Jimmy. Trust me, that's in Jimmy's head. That's in Bam's head. And since neither of them are really knockdown jump shooters, their game is predicated on going to the basket. So he's having an effect. Like, he's part of that, 5 for 28 or 5 for 30 or whatever they were combined. Now it's up to Spoelstra and then ultimately up to them to figure out how do we get Bob Williams away from the basket, or how do we get cross matches so Jimmy and Bam can wiggle free and get some buckets. But if they're just going to be stuck in one-on-one situations trying to stare him down or trying to get him off balance or whatever, and he does a pretty good job, Bob Williams does, of not biting on pump fakes. As good as I've seen from a springy shot blocker in a long time. Sometimes you got like lengthy shot blockers like Tim Duncan was a lengthy shot blocker. He wasn't very springy, but he was a lengthy shot blocker. And sometimes you got those guys who are just 7'1", they're towering. But Bob Williams has got some springs, and he gets up really quick, and he's long, and that, trust me, that is bothering Bam and Jimmy, for sure. And I think it bothers Bam more because Bam handles the ball, but he's got what I called open freeway handles, right? He can dribble the ball up the court, but he doesn't play one-on-one well from the wings. He doesn't cross over get you going one way and then go back to the other. He doesn't do that well. His game is really predicated on being quicker than bigs and being able to catch at his spots and get to the basket. And again, that stuff's just not going against Bob Williams, who's a heck of an athlete. He's got good feet. He can play out on the perimeter. And I just want everybody to understand he's a big part of why Bam has been struggling. I've been a big supporter of Joe Mazzulla. I think he deserves, like every other coach, the opportunity to grow. What I didn't like is how he handled that zone. I thought, I think it was 4 or 5 possessions where they put that kind of 3/4 court press on to slow him down. It really wasn't a true pressure. They were just trying to slow him down. And it was actually pretty smart, right? When you think about it, it's a 24-second shot clock in the pros. And so if you slow them down just a couple seconds, then you're rushing their offense on the back end, right? Once they get into their offense, they've got a few seconds less to operate. So it's actually pretty brilliant by Spoelstra to put that on. And I think he put it on for 4 or 5 possessions, and they went 0 for 4 or 0 for 5, and that really is what got them back in the game after Boston went up 10. And I was talking to my brother after the game, and I was like, all they needed to do, right? They kept playing. I think a couple times they tried to play screen and roll on the side for Tatum, and then one time they kicked it to the corner and tried to play from the corner. And then I think they did it once where they got it to Brown in the middle and let him attack, and he kind of blew it. But that's what they needed to do. I didn't understand why they were trying to play screen and roll and then kick into the corner. I think they kicked it once to Horford and then once to Brown or Marcus Smart, and they tried to play from the corner against the zone. And I was like, pass, get Jalen flashing, and then let him work. Jalen didn't seem too comfortable in there, and I guess that's just really a matter of they haven't probably seen a zone like that. And it was a pressure, a pressure situation. Game 6, they're up 10, they're trying to close it out. They've been getting whatever they wanted in their screen and roll action and their normal offense, and so I think maybe they all just got a little tentative and got a little flustered. But that, to me, is where a coach then steps in, calls a timeout, and then draws up something and tells everybody where he wants them to go on this play and what he wants them to do. And then it results in a bucket, and it calms everybody down. And they didn't really do that. Like I said, they went 0 for 4, and that was what let them get back in the game. And I thought that was a mistake from Mazzulla. And my guess is if the game is close down the stretch, he's going to see that again, and I'd like to see him be prepared for that, right? So that doesn't happen again. Duncan Robinson, right? Kudos to that guy. I know he's worked hard to get where he is. I texted my brother at the beginning of the game when we text back and forth almost all the time when these games are going on. But when the Martin boy, Caleb Martin, was going off, right? And he was shooting it real well. And I texted him and I said, these guys aren't really made for these moments, right? Like Caleb Martin isn't a game 6, go for 30, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kobe Bryant type of player. That's not what he does. That's not who he is. And I said the longer these guys have to stay out of their element, right? So the longer they have to do this while Jimmy and Bam and maybe Kyle Lowry, who's been there before, aren't really stepping into that winning role for Game 6, a closeout game for them, for the Heat. I said the longer they have to stay in this role, the better off the Celtics are going to be. And true enough, right? Duncan Robinson hits a big 3. I think it was maybe 10 minutes left, but then he gets 2 clean open looks. Clean. And I thought they were down because he couldn't have been more open. And he missed both of them, and he missed the second one badly. And again, that to me is just having guys out of their elements, right? Duncan Robinson isn't used to getting those shots in a Eastern Conference closeout game at home with everything on the line, right? That's just not that's not who he is, right? And when it came down to it, I was right. It wasn't Caleb Martin, but it was one of their undrafted players who, quite frankly, couldn't deliver. He got that cross-court look. I thought it was a good kick ahead from Bam. Robinson's wide open. on the left wing, and then he got that other one on the mid right wing, and there were two good looks, and he missed both of them. I mean, two wide open looks, and he missed both of them. And I think that is because, again, he's operating in all of these guys: Strus, Duncan, Gabe. I mean, we've been talking about Gabe Benson for the last week and a half like he's Chris Paul, and I don't. I don't understand. Again, I'm not hating on dude. I love their stories. If I would have ever been an NBA player, I would have been that type of guy. But when you evaluate it objectively, you got to be candid and just say, hey man, Gabe Benson's not that special. He had a couple really good games. Marcus Smart has got a hold of himself now and realized who he is, and has decided, a lot of that's got to, a lot of that, we got to nip a lot of that in the bud, and as such, you kind of see what you're getting. So, Butler and Bam, I talked about that. Bam has no athletic advantage over Brown. I've said that before. Yeah, he's given up a couple inches in height, but he just doesn't. And again, this is for people who maybe don't really understand, who love basketball but don't understand it. Bob Williams 3 is special. Like I said, he's long, he's athletic, he's springy, and he gets up quick, right? He doesn't just jump high. Like Darvin Ham, if you guys remember Darvin Ham, the player, like Darvin Ham had hops, but he didn't get up quick. Bob Williams 3 gets up super quick, right? Which when you think you're getting a layup or you think you're at the basket about to finish, and then before you know it, you don't even know what happens, and he blocked your shot. That's how it works. And I guarantee you that's in Bam's. And Bam's a pretty good athlete, but he's not, on par with Williams. And I think it's in Bam's head, and I think it'll be up to Spoelstra to figure out how he can get Bam, maybe again on some cross action or something. But he's got to get. And even when, to be honest, even when Horford switches on to Bam or gets on Bam, Al's a legit 6'10". Al's not springy, not an athlete, but he is long. Al's got long arms. And so I think that's even bothering Bam. And like I said, Bam he doesn't have really good ball skills. Sure, he can bring the ball up the court, but when you put pressure on him or you put him in a screen and roll with the ball, or you swing, and then he's got to drive and try to, again, change direction to get to the basket, he's not, that's not his game, and I think that's what's hurting him. So, a couple things, and I'm going to put up a couple graphics here because I didn't like Spoelstra's post game where he said it was a lucky bounce, but it wasn't. The Celtics crashed hard, and the Heat didn't. Right? I'll put up the graphic, but the Heat were standing around, and the Celtics acted like their season was on the line, which it was, and it worked out, right? Good things happen when you play hard. I say that all the time. Good things happen when you play hard. So, yes, Max Strus denied Tatum and did part of his job, but he coasted, and then you see him break when Derrick breaks, right? Meaning that Strus could have ran in, right? I mean, it's 2 seconds left on the shot clock. It's going to be a scrum for the ball. It's not like I have to box out and then go get him. I could have just ran to the rim. But you see him slow down when he thinks White is flaring to the corner, and then White breaks, and then you see Strus break, but it's too late. It was too late, right? And I can't show the footage, but I'll show you guys just an image, and I'll tell you what I mean. I'll show you what I mean. Strus could have just, with 2 seconds left, he could have front run that ball. Butler was standing around. Vincent was standing around. Bam boxed out Brown. And then I forget who was on the weak side with Al. But Tatum, my point is, Spoelstra said it was a lucky bounce. It wasn't, because Tatum was flying high from the right side. And if that ball would have went off the right, he would have tipped it or tip-dunked it just as easily as White tipped it in on the left side. And that happens because White rim ran and Tatum rim ran. And they didn't have to at the end of the game. That's my point. I was talking to my brother after the game, and I was like, man, a lot of guys just sit around and watch, right? A lot of guys will just sit around and watch the ball. That's it, right? It's 2.8 seconds. He caught it. I think he turned into the shot, so that's a half a second. Shots up, 1,000, 1,000, that's game. But Jason dived. Derrick, and kudos to Derrick again, because he flared thinking he may get a kickback from Marcus. And then when shot was up, he broke on that ball quick. And again, that was urgency. That was our season's over if we don't make something happen here. And kudos to those guys for making it happen. You never quit playing until the buzzer the buzzer rings. Last thing I'm going to say, what am I time at here? Dang, I'm already at 22 minutes. I didn't want to be on here for this long. But last thing I'm going to say, threes are overrated. The Celtics were 7 for 35 from three. They're shooting way too many threes. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and even Marcus Smart to a lesser degree, getting to the basket, are way too good. They're way too big. They're way too athletic. They're way too strong, and they're way too good at scorers to just be relegated to shooting a bunch of threes, right? As far as I know, there are three guys, right? Steph, Clay, and Dame Lillard, who can shoot those type of, 10, 12, 13 3-point shots or 13 threes a game type of player. I would like to see Tatum and Brown stay in the 5 to 6 range, and maybe they were there. Maybe it was just the other guys were shooting a bunch of threes, but I still think Tatum and Brown and the Celtics overall are better when they're putting downward pressure on the Heat. And the Heat don't have any rim protection, right? They don't have any rim protection. If the Celtics win, which I expect them to do, the Nuggets won't have any rim protection, and the Nuggets will have even worse perimeter defenders than Jimmy Butler and Kevin Martin. Jimmy Butler and Kevin Martin are Caleb Martin are pretty decent defenders for their. I know Jimmy's getting up there in age, but they're pretty decent defenders. Michael Porter Jr. and KCP. I should laugh. Jalen, they got to focus on Monday. But if they win, and Jaylen Brown doesn't get MVP, going up against KCP and Bruce Brown, then he doesn't deserve All-NBA second team. But my initial point, I'm all over the place here. My initial point, threes are overrated. If you're not Curry or Pete Klay Thompson or Dame Lillard, guys are just shooting way too many threes for my taste. And I think Smart, Tatum, and Brown, but really Tatum and Brown, who can play at all three levels and make free throws. Brown can play in the post. Brown can play below the three-point line. Brown can play from the wing, and he can shoot the three. Same with Tatum, and he's even bigger and better at it. And so, to me, those guys should come out and look to really play below the free throw line, and then let the threes come to them. Let the threes come to them instead of forcing them. I think Jalen took a couple that kind of cringed. Jason's pretty good with his shot selection, right? He's pretty good with his shot selection, but still, I think because they're so good, they could play and put a little bit more pressure on the defense by playing below the free throw line. So, all right, that's it. Like I said, there's a few other things I needed to talk about. Lakers, Denver, I'll do that another time. I got some notes on them. I've got some notes on the Sixers. But yeah, Celtics-Heat, man, what a game. Very fantastic. Looking forward to Monday. I've been on PTO all week. So it'll be a good bookend to my PTO to watch the Celtics and Heat. Hopefully it'll be a good game. Hopefully the C's make the finals. And then we'll be talking finals. All right. Peace.